Hi everyone, today I want to talk about executive functioning. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about in sessions and just in general when I teach. I think that this is such a foundational concept to really study and understand when you're in direct practice and treatment with those who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders throughout the lifespan. So what is executive functioning? These are a whole bunch of different cognitive processes that we all use when we're processing information. So I'm just going to run down the 7 areas, and then I'm going to pick one of them, and I'm just going to give an example of how complicated it really is. So the first one I'll start with is inhibition. Okay, so inhibition is generally just waiting in line, waiting your turn, not speaking out of turn, those types of things. The second one is flexibility and set shifting. How much we're able to change on a dime, change direction, and accommodate the new information quickly and react and respond to it. Okay. The third one is attention, and this is the one I'm going to give the example about because I mentioned in the video that I just did about ABA and why a common function that gets placed on these kiddos, especially diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders, is that the function is attention. So I'm going to run through an example of attention and how you might look at it differently now rather than just attention seeking, acting out. Okay, next one is memory. Okay, we all kind of have an idea of what memory is. There's different types of memory. I'm not going to go into that for this video. Problem solving. That can be almost anything. And this is another area that I think those of us who have not worked with a lot of kids or young people in this population take for granted how many problem-solving tasks we're involved in all day long. If you really kind of sat back and put your behaviorist cap on and took a frequency tally, you probably would go through for a different method of collection because it would probably be too many. That's a joke to my behaviorists out there and my BCBAs. Okay. And the other one is planning. Right? How well we can plan and prepare. And oftentimes with this population, right, that gets a bad rap. These kids are so disorganized. They're never planned. They need help with all that. So we'll talk about that later too. And then the last one, and I always put this last, even though it's not necessarily, there's an order to these, is metacognition. And what I find myself usually teaching to families is there has to be a good mastery of all of those other 6 components for a child to basically be able to start to demonstrate good metacognitive skills. Now, of course, that might not be the case for everybody, but generally, I think it's a helpful explanation to kind of see it that way when you're learning your child and learning about the way that they think. So let me go back to attention. Metacognition, by the way, is self-monitoring. Basically, these were those old classes that, you know, a lot of us older folks had in school when they taught you study skills, read, write, remember, and you had to go over the information. Do you need to read it again? Reread it, rewrite it. Do I know it? Do I know what I don't know? That's metacognition as one example. So let me move on to attention and give you an example about why this is so complicated. So when we think about paying attention to someone else, even just listening to me speak right now, we are engaging in a whole heck of a lot of cognitive processes that we, again, take for granted or really haven't thought about. So if I'm speaking to you, right, if I'm you on the other end, I have to attend, right, I have to pay attention to what I'm saying. I have to take those words in. I have to comprehend the words. And then I put some meaning to them. And that could be in the form of, oh, this is interesting, or, oh, how does this apply to me? Or, oh, what might my response be if we were in a live conversation? And then can I formulate that thought and then articulate it in a way that makes sense to what we're talking about and will make sense to the person on the other end about the content of whatever you're discussing? So that's just an example of how complicated that skill is that we take for granted every day. When we work with this population, there can be errors, I call them, at any one of those places. So executive functioning errors are quite common in this population. It's my job when I work with these individuals to figure out where those errors are happening and then reteach and retrain the skill. I hope this was helpful. I hope you have questions about this. I'd love to do more videos on this, but this can get quite complex. And so I like individual examples for this. So thanks for watching.